unbegotten thing, for thou hast protected me from the darkness. And at thy wish I arose above the power of darkness. And that nothing might be hidden from you, Shem, the thought, which the spirit from the greatness had contemplated, came into being, since the darkness was not able to restrain his evil. But when it appeared, the three roots became known as they were from the beginning. If the darkness had been able to bear up under his evil, the mind would not have separated from him, and another power would not have appeared. But from the time it appeared I was seen, the Son of the Majesty, in order that the light of the Spirit might not become faint, and that nature might not reign over it, because it gazed at me. And by the will of the greatness my equality was revealed, that what is of the power might become apparent. You are the great power which came into being, and I am the perfect light which is above the Spirit and the darkness, the one who puts to shame the darkness for the intercourse of the impure practices. For through the division of nature the Majesty wished to be covered with honor up to the height of the thought of the Spirit. And the Spirit received rest in his power. For the image of the light is inseparable from the unbegotten Spirit. And the lawgivers did not name him after all the clouds of nature, nor is it possible to name them. For every likeness into which nature had divided is a power of the chaotic fire which is the hylic seed. The one who took to himself the power of the darkness imprisoned it in the midst of its members. And by the will of the Majesty, in order that the mind and the whole light of the Spirit might be protected from every burden and from the toil of nature, a voice came forth from the Spirit to the cloud of the Hymen. And the light of the astonishment began to rejoice with the voice which was granted to him. And the great Spirit of light was in the cloud of the Hymen. He honored the infinite light and the universal likeness who I am, the Son of the Majesty. It is said in Assaduces, Thou art the infinite light who was given by the will of the Majesty to establish every light of the Spirit upon the place, and to separate the mind from the darkness. For it was not right for the light of the Spirit to remain in Hades. For at thy wish the Spirit arose to behold thy greatness. For I said these things to you, Shem, that you might know that my likeness, the Son of the Majesty, is from my infinite thought, since I am for him a universal likeness which does not lie, and I am above every truth and origin of the word. His appearance is in my beautiful garment of light which is the voice of the immeasurable thought. We are that single, sole light which came into being. He appeared in another root in order that the power of the Spirit might be raised from the feeble nature. For by the will of the great light I came forth from the exalted Spirit down to the cloud of the Hymen without my universal garment. And the Word took me to himself, from the Spirit, in the first cloud of the Hymen of nature. And I put on this of which the Majesty and the unbegotten Spirit made me worthy. And the threefold unity of my garment appeared in the cloud, by the will of the Majesty, in a single form. And my likeness was covered with the light of my garment. And the cloud was disturbed, and it was not able to bear my likeness. It shed the first power, the one which it had taken from the Spirit, that one which shone on him from the beginning, before I appeared in the Word to the Spirit. The cloud would not have been able to bear both of them. And the light which came forth from the cloud passed through the silence, until it came into the middle region. And, by the will of the Majesty, the light mixed with him the Spirit which exists in the silence, he who had been separated from the Spirit of light. It was separated from the light by the cloud of the silence. The cloud was disturbed. It was he who gave rest to the flame of fire. He humbled the dark womb in order that she might not reveal other seed from the darkness. He kept them back in the middle region of nature in their position which was in the cloud. They were troubled since they did not know where they were. For still they did not possess the universal understanding of the Spirit. And when I prayed to the Majesty, toward the infinite light, that the chaotic power of the Spirit might go to and fro, and the dark womb might be idle, and that my likeness might appear in the cloud of the Hymen, as if I were wrapped in the light of the Spirit which went before me, and by the will of the Majesty and through the prayer I came in the cloud in order that through my garment which was from the power of the Spirit the pleroma of the Word, might bring power to the members who possessed it in the darkness. For because of them I appeared in this insignificant place. For I am a helper of everyone who has been given a name. For when I appeared in the cloud, the light of the Spirit began to save itself from the frightful water, and from the clouds of fire which had been separated from dark nature. And I gave them eternal honor that they might not again engage in the impure practice. And the light which was in the Hymen was disturbed by my power, and it passed through my middle region. It was filled with the universal thought. And through the word of the light of the Spirit it returned to its repose. It received form in its root and shone without deficiency. And the light which had come forth with it from the silence went in the middle region and returned to the place. And the cloud shone. And from it came an unquenchable fire. And the part which separated from the astonishment put on forgetfulness. It was deceived by the fire of darkness and the shock of its astonishment cast off the burden of the cloud. It was evil since it was unclean. And the fire mixed with the water in order that the waters might become harmful. And nature which had been disturbed immediately arose from the idle waters. For her ascent was shameful. And nature took to herself the power of fire. She became strong because of the light of the Spirit which was in nature. Her likeness appeared in the water in the form of a frightful beast with many faces, which is crooked below. A light went down to chaos filled with mist and dust, in order to harm nature. And the light of the astonishment which is in the middle region came to it after he cast off the burden of the darkness. He rejoiced when the Spirit arose. For he looked from the clouds down at the dark waters upon the light which was in the depths of nature. Therefore I appeared that I might get an opportunity to go down to the nether world, to the light of the Spirit which was burdened, that I might protect him from the evil of the burden. And through his looking down at the dark region the light once more came up in order that the womb might again come up from the water. She that is the womb came up by my will. Guilefully the eye opened. And the light which had appeared in the middle region and which had separated from the astonishment rested and shone upon her. And the womb saw things she had not seen, and she rejoiced joyfully in the light, although this was not hers the one which appeared in the middle region, in her wickedness, when the light shone upon her. And the womb saw things she had not seen, and she was brought down to the water, she was thinking that she had reached to the power of light. And she did not know that her root was made idle by the likeness of the light, and that it was to her that is the root that he had run. The light was astonished, the one which was in the middle region and which was beginning and end. Therefore his thought gazed directly up at the exalted light. And he called out and said, Lord, have mercy on me, for my light and my effort went astray. For if thy goodness does not establish me, I do not know where I am. And when the Majesty had heard him, he had mercy on him. And I appeared in the cloud of the Hymen, in the silence, without my holy garment. With my will I honored my garment which has three forms in the cloud of the Hymen. And the light which was in the silence, the one from the rejoicing power, contained me. I wore it. And its two parts appeared in a single form. Its other parts did not appear on account of the fire. I became unable to speak in the cloud of the Hymen, for its fire was frightful, lifting itself up without humility. And in order that my greatness and the word might appear, I placed likewise my other garment in the cloud of the silence. I went into the middle region and put on the light that was in it, that was sunk in forgetfulness and that was separated from the spirit of astonishment, for he had cast off the burden. At my wish nothing mortal appeared to him, but they were all immortal things which the Spirit granted to him. And he said in the thought of the light, I fardu is I have come in a great rest in order that he may give rest to my light in his root, and may bring it out of harmful nature. Then, by the will of the Majesty, I took off my garment of light. I put on another garment of fire which has no form, which is from the mind of the power, which was separated, and which was prepared for me, according to my will, in the middle region. For the middle region covered it with a dark power in order that I might come and put it on. I went down to chaos to save the whole light from it. For without the power of darkness I could not oppose nature. But I rested myself upon her staring eye which was a light from the Spirit. For it had been prepared for me as a garment and a rest by the Spirit. Through me he opened his eyes down to Hades. He granted nature his voice for a time. And my garment of fire, according to the will of the Majesty, went down to what is strong, and to the unclean part of nature which the power of darkness was covering. And my garment rubbed not to her in her covering. And her unclean femininity was strong,